What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex Podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon, joined as always by the odds maker, Sean Koerner. You are listening to two of the top 6 most accurate fantasy football rankers for season-long contests over the past 3 years, according to Fantasy Pros. So, Sean, congrats at that. We're going to jump right into part 2 of our NFC episode here. Reminder, the all-new Fantasy Labs app just dropped. We're really excited about it, so be sure to check it out. You can get $20 off a season-long subscription right now when you download the all-new Fantasy Labs app. All right, Koerner, let's get into the NFC East. What are we doing with George Pickens? Is he going to be a consistent fantasy starter, maybe a wide receiver 3, maybe even a wide receiver 2? Or is he going to be more like bye-week fodder or do something crazy and work into Deontay Johnson territory?
I think he'll be solid, but I think it'll be more inconsistent. I think, CeeDee Lambs is going to dominate targets still, but it could open things up for Pickens. So I think he's going to have spiked weeks, probably better for best ball, not trying to figure out what weeks those will be. But I think, if anything, this is really good news for Dak Prescott and just the Cowboys offense in general, having a wide receiver like Pickens to draw attention away from CeeDee Lamb. It could even open things up for Jake Ferguson this year too as well. So I think Pickens helps open up the offense, although it might make him be a little less consistent than people would want. So I would say he's going to be a consistent but solid, wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 option this year.
Brian Schottenheimer taking over. I mean, what an uninspiring coaching hire, but he did increase his pass rate. The last time he was calling plays, each of his 3 years there in Seattle with Pete Carroll. So that is promising. And Dak's always been a high volume passer as well. It seems like they want to go down the field more. So this is something we really have to keep our eyes on in training camp. But yeah, as of right now, I think Pickens probably in that wide receiver 3 range, but in season long inconsistent. So I think you can do better with other positions once you start to get in that range. There's a lot of running back value. You can go with one of the onesie positions, a lot of value there as well. So I'm not taking a ton of Pickens yet, but you could see him hit. It's just we have to kind of see what Schottenheimer's offense is going to look like. I don't think anyone truly knows for sure yet. All right, what you got?
Yeah, so just which running back is going to emerge as the lead back for the Cowboys this year?
None of them.
Well, it's got to be somebody. Is he not on the roster yet? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, every year there's one of those teams that starts like 5 or 6 running backs and they all get like 100 carries. It's not. You know me. I just think Javonte Williams, the injuries just ruined him. Some people may think he's going to get back. I don't. I think Jaden Blue is the most exciting guy, but he's still a day 3 pick, so it could go either way. And then I think Miles Sanders actually might have more of a shot than we think. But then again, I'm hearing rumors of him as a cut candidate. But I did see a couple of flashes of him late in the year last year on Carolina where he looked like a little bit more like the Miles Sanders of old. So I want to bet on Blue, but value-wise, I'd probably say Sanders if we're going with an official pick. What about you?
Oh, I'm definitely going with Jaden Blue, just because this running back room is a disaster. But yeah, Javonte's probably cooked. Miles Sanders probably has the best shot to be, the week 1 starter and start a handful of games. But I think Jaden Blue's sneaky. He's the closest back, I think, to Bucky Irving this year. A lot of the same process that led me to Bucky last year leads me to, take flyers on Jaden Blue, who, he's a 5th round pick out of Texas. So not like a high prospect, but, he was solid at Texas, so showed some pop. The one downside with him is he is a bit smaller. He's 5'9", 196. And that was kind of my concern with Bucky Irving, who was 5'9", 192, and it turned out to not matter. I think these smaller backs in the modern NFL are starting to hit a lot more, so I'm less concerned about Blue size than others. So he's a player that I think in preseason he could have some explosive runs and have people turning heads to where his ADP is going to start to skyrocket at that point, and maybe I hop off. We'll see, but I think right now is kind of the time to be investing on him outside of the top 40. I don't think he's a slam dunk at all, but I think just given the uncertainty in this running back room, there's definitely a path for him to hit. So I think out of the three, I'm going to go Jaden Blue.
Yeah, I think that Bucky Irving hangover, whatever you want to call it, like it probably had me more hyped than I should have been on Blue, but I'm gonna kind of keep it where I'm expecting all three of the guys that we mentioned to kind of at some point in the season end up as the lead back, and I think overall the carries are gonna or the snaps are gonna be pretty evenly split. But the one thing that's starting to get me a little worried about Blue compared to a guy like a Bucky Irving, for example, is you have to kind of look at the context clues, and that's why, for example, like Jacksonville with Cone going over there, but in Tampa Bay, Jason Light has done a very, very good job as an executive with them. From getting Brady and then the transition. They've been in the playoffs every year, going back to 2020. So they're good at, and they're skill position guy after skill position guy they turn out. Dallas, their running back evaluations have left a lot to be desired as of late. I mean, you have the Deuce Vaughn situation. You have, hanging on way too long with Zeke Elliott. You have took way too long to get Dowdle involved. And then you let him go, and he still signs a super cheap deal. I mean, I would rather have Rico Dowdle running it back than this motley crew of
for sure
in the backfield. So, that just leads me to say, okay, well, I'm going to temper expectations for the way they evaluate their rookie. I do think he does have some of that upside, but personally, I'm still more like I'd still side with more like a Basil Tootin kind of play, or maybe even Brashard Smith at this point. But yeah, Blue still he's a guy going outside the top 40 in a wide open backfield, and so I think he's worth a dart throw. But I'm going to temper my expectations because I do expect it to be very frustrating from one week to the next.
Yeah,
they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. Bringing back Dowdle would have made the most sense. And to be clear, I'm not expecting another Bucky Irving this year. I think that was a last year thing. But just a lot of the same process that led to him kind of applies here, where it's just kind of a murky running back situation where you have a rookie that could pop. And in the past, I've been kind of down on guys where I don't think they can handle a full workload. Like James Cook was one of those backs, I thought, and Bucky similar. So I've been a little bit more willing to kind of give these like smaller backs a shot at potentially having full workload upside. But having said that, this is still a long shot play. Blue is definitely a flyer. Don't go crazy. But just if you are going to invest in this backfield, he's definitely the guy I'm targeting.
Yeah, I mean, considering the way the other, I mean, and Dalvin Cook, another, I mean, if the veterans are as bad as the veterans the Cowboys have tried last year, who was it? Dalvin Cook and Zeke, and then Dalvin Cook.
Yeah,
yeah. I mean Zeke, but Dalvin Cook. Remember him? Every week was like, "Oh, is he going to get called up? Is he going to get called up?" He had like 2 games and was awful. So if Javonte and Sanders are Zeke and Dalvin Cook, it's looking good for Blue. Although I'm also hearing buzz about the late round guy, Maffa. He's more of an early down guy. Yeah. But this is one, just monitor it in camp and don't feel like you have to take any of them if things don't align. Speaking of running backs, where are you on the Tyrone Tracy versus Cam Scatterbo divide here? Like, who would you rather take? It's another situation where the answer might be none of them, but if you had to take one, who do you favor here?
Yeah, I think the fun play here would be to take Scattaboo. I think he would be somebody that um, would pick up during the season. I think Tracy earned the right to be the lead back in week one. I thought he was really solid last year when given the chance. He had those fumbling issues, so that's certainly, the floor case with him is if those pop up early on, he could be cooked. Especially, he was similar to Antonio Gibson, right, where he was a wide receiver turned running back, so he might have those growing pains where the fumbling issue could persist this year. So it's very scary taking Tracy, but Scattaboo, he's the kind of guy that's just gonna grind away and pick up yards after contact, could mix in as a pass catcher as well. So I wouldn't be shocked if he does leapfrog Tracy. But this is a tight battle. I have him ranked both just outside the top 30. So this is a situation I'm probably going to be updating my projections on like a weekly basis based on camp reports and how they look in preseason. But for me personally, I would be taking a flyer on Scattaboo. I think he has more upside. Whereas Tracy, there's a bit more risk there. So yeah, I'm leaning Scattaboo now, but I can go either way. How about you?
Tracy, just reluctantly, I would go Tracy. I'm just not hearing good things about Scattaboo in camp. Hearing that he's physically, not up to like his strength and power is not where it needs to be, and that's what he's going to have to rely on because he's not one of the faster backs. He's going to be kind of a bowling ball. He's going to have to run to contact, and especially with the quarterback situations and that tough schedule. A lot of people are saying, well, Scattaboo can do some things in the pass game. Maybe that will be his pass to the field. I'm not so sure about that. Number one, you still have to, pass block and learn the protections and whatnot. And you might be alongside a veteran in Russell Wilson or even Jameis Winston. I think it's going to be Dart, but also remember, Devin Singletary is still there. The 14th highest cap hit of all running backs, $6.3 million. He was their Barkley replacement. He's the guy that if you'll probably play him on pass downs, right? And he's not just going to go away because it's kind of like that confirmation bias. Like you already paid him, so you're going to use him. So I think this could be one of the few like true three-way committees where Singletary probably takes the Eric Gray role, except plays more than Eric Gray ever did, and it's just a thorn in the side of everyone. But Scattaboo is just, he's been banged up. I don't like when I'm not hearing good things physically about a back that needs to kind of outplay his physicality as it is, or like use his physicality as it is. So and then the O-line could be bad. There's a lot of negative game scripts. I think Tracy's, and this is another team with just not a good track record with running back decisions. Eric Gray letting Saquon go, signing Singletary to too big of a deal. Tyrone Tracy was the best decision Joe Shane ever, probably the only good decision so far with the way Scattaboo's camp is starting. So yeah, I've been taking some Tracy and buying the dip on him because I still think he's the most explosive back that they have. So yeah, that's where I'm at with those guys. I'm excited for this question.
Yeah, it's just okay. So this is a team where we might have 3 quarterbacks make starts this year. So how are you approaching this when it comes to projecting starts for Russell Wilson, rookie Jackson Dart, and even Jameis Winston? How do you see this unfolding?
I think Jameis is there for moral support. He's going to be a great coach one day. No, seriously. He's just a pick six machine. Do you have? Because you've been quoting the odds for all these starting quarterbacks week one. What are the odds for Dart versus Wilson? Give them to me.
Well, Wilson was minus 750.
Bang Dart, smash Dart, smash him, smash Dart
for week one starter.
Yeah, absolutely. Come on.
Yeah, because
Russell Wilson's
there's also injury risk, right? That's what happened last year. You took Justin Fields. It was like plus 500, and Wilson got hurt. So
No,
Fields started. So there's many paths to this hitting.
Russell Wilson got hurt. Air quotes, got hurt. Russell Wilson has one of the strongest PR. No, seriously, it's not a not. I mean, he earned that with the way he played earlier in his career. He looked to be on a Hall of Fame path, but it's gone really wrong lately. But I'm still not convinced that there weren't some type of assurances given to him, or kind of maybe they just said it, not even like it written into the contract, but just like, yeah, oh yeah, Russ, like you're gonna be a starter, and then like they just needed either he needed a way out because he was going to lose the job, or they kind of gave him an injury, because that seemed just very suspicious the way he was just kind of sidelined, and then it was like, okay, after Fields kind of showed his limitations, then Tom was like, all right, now we'll go. But like, here's an interesting stat for you: Russell Wilson's offenses, each of the past 4 seasons, top 10 in 3 and outs. He's like that. Like, now you're going to the Giants. I mean, listen, man, you don't trade back up into the first round, draft a guy not to play him, and your bye week is late. Your schedule is tough, so there's no point, and like there's no obvious spot to transition. So Jackson Dart has a couple of good camps, and Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson will look fine when the pads are off and he's just throwing moon balls down the sideline. But the minute you start getting bodies around him and pressure on him, he's gonna get sacked. Okay, he's gonna get sacked, and Jackson Dart can move around, and Malik Neighbors is not gonna be. You bet Malik Neighbors is gonna make some noise if Russell Wilson's Wilsoning. So I would smash Dart. Historically, when you see quarterbacks, even in the back half of the first round, they're usually starting double-digit games as rookies. So if it's not week 1, I think it's shortly thereafter. I think it could be like remember Josh Allen that year with Daboll, his rookie year. Nathan Peterman started week 1, and then Allen came in. I think they got blown out 47-3, and then week 2, Allen started. I can see that. Yep. Although I do have money on the Giants against Washington.
Oh, okay.
What do you give me the numbers for the game for each of these guys right now? Right now.
Right now, I have Russ starting about 9 games.
Okay.
I think he starts, and I should have worded the question for you differently too. Like, let me just get through this first. I have Russ Wilson around 9 games.
Yep.
Dart around 7, and then Winston with 1. I do agree. I think Winston's there for moral support and just being there. But yeah, I agree. I think the way I would phrase it to you is, what would Brian Daboll do in order to keep his job? Like, try to protect Dart, and like, I need to coach him next year because he's my guy. I'll turn it around. Or throw him out there sooner. Like, I think Daboll's going to be deciding this based on how to stick around longer as well. Like, do you think of it that way when it comes to Daboll and his job security?
Yeah, I think Daboll's job security, if he's a competent football coach, which I have no reason to think he's not competent, right, then it won't take him long to see that Russell Wilson is a liability, and right, Jackson Dart is an unknown who has a first round draft pedigree. Could he be terrible? Yes. Could he be better than Russell Wilson? Yeah. Probably. So yeah, I just it's like, I know the Giants aren't getting much fanfare these days. They've been horrible for the last decade plus. So I get why it's like the consensus is just strongly toward Wilson, but I mean, it's going to take, like I said, like to your point, 1 preseason game, what I mean? Like, Jackson Dart balls out, Russell Wilson looks a little shaky, doesn't get the first team offense in the end zone. He's playing into week 2 and week 3, and he doesn't have a touchdown yet. I mean, or mysterious injury. So yeah, I would bet Jackson. I think Jackson Dart's chances of starting week 1 are a lot stronger. I already have them equal in game started, and I probably before long will flip Dart ahead. So
Wow.
that's where I'm
at. Well, Winston's 6-1 to start week 1. Dart's actually 13-1, and you can get Tommy Cutlets at 100-1 if you want to go that route.
I mean, you asked me about Dabo and his job security. This is a man who they released Daniel Jones after 6 starts, started Tommy DeVito, who cannot drop back without getting sacked, went from Tommy DeVito to Drew Lock, from Drew Lock to Tim Boyle, and then back to Drew. I mean, come on. You think he's not going to start his first round pick? As soon as possible?
If you think about, I think Dart is definitely a prospect that is coming a little raw. That offense at Ole Miss was pretty gimmicky. He's going to have a learning curve. So they probably don't want to just throw him out there in the fire. I think he will need some time.
They said that about
practicing. Josh. It could be a mess, but I love Dart's rushing upside. I think he could be sneaky and fancy when he does take over. He does have some Josh Allen to him in terms of his rushing upside and things like that. So I think he'll be exciting to see. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see when that does happen. And it sounds like you're thinking it could be sooner earlier in the season.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if in a month we're sitting here and they're saying does Jackson Dart indeed have a chance to start week 1? you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like what was the situation last year? The Denver situation, right? Where who was it there? Stidham, I think it was. Maybe it was Zach.
Yeah, it was Stidham. Yeah. If it wasn't going to be Bo Nix, it was going to be Stidham and Zach Wilson potentially.
Mac Jones, Cam Newton that year too. It only takes a couple of good practices from Dart and bad ones from Wilson, and both of those things very likely. And they said Josh was a project too. I mean Jackson Dart with the Giants' luck will just be another Daniel Jones, but that doesn't looking good next to Russell Wilson's not going to be hard. But let's go to the Eagles, man. Can Goddard get back to TE1 status? I feel like we thought he was getting traded, then he signed a reword deal, then they don't throw the ball all year, but he plays a ton in the playoffs. Where are you at with Goddard?
Yeah, well, to answer your question, the tight end 1 status, he would need to stay healthy, and he would probably need either Devontae or AJ Brown to miss significant time, I think, because this is just a run-heavy offense. That's just the way it is, especially with Saquon Barkley now. And then, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith command their targets. So it's just really tough for Goddard to produce consistent numbers. The upside is there if one of them goes down. But I have him as the tight end 14, and I think he'll offer that consistent, high-end tight end 2 production. So he pretty much is who he is at this point. The one thing is if Saquon Barkley doesn't score as many long touchdowns this year, it could allow these pass catchers a few more opportunities, but as of now, I just consider Goddard more of a high end tight end 2 than a tight end 1, which he does have that upside, but not in the current situation.
Yeah, I've been getting some Goddard. I like his upside in this year's tight end class because he's cheap. We saw when he was healthy, he was on the field 85-90% route rate. Last 3 postseason games, 90+%. And you got to remember, you talked about the Saquon scoring long touchdowns, which is part of it. But just in general, Kellen Moore's gone. The Eagles under Sirianni were kind of tilted toward run heavy, but never that run heavy. Now you're going to have a first place schedule because remember, no one ever wins the NFC East 2 years in a row. You're going to have a first place schedule again. Your defense did take a hit, even though it's still talented. You're probably going to be in more trailing game scripts. So I think just pass attempt wise, right? Just natural regression because, volume is more sticky than efficiency generally, especially for quarterbacks, attempts and stuff. But with Jalen Hurts, there's still going to be regression toward the mean in terms of his passing volume, I think. I mean, it's just hard to go through a season averaging 20, 25, 26 attempts. And so I think all the Eagles pass catchers could be a little bit undervalued from that standpoint. And I think Goddard would be the most useful because, I mean, look at the mid-range tight end ones, which always tends to be like a shit show anyway. Kelsey is old. Mark Andrews, I mean, he was like a glorified fullback for half the year and just survived off touchdowns, and he's got likely breathing down his neck. I mean, there's a lot of landmines in the mid-range tight end 1 tier. So if I could just wait and take Goddard as like a tight end 15, tight end 12, whatever it is, I'm doing it, honestly. I think it's I don't think there's been much fall off and drop off in his play, and the health is the health. Right. I mean, look at Zach Ertz last year; he was fine.
Yeah, I think it's just in that range. It's just kind of what you're going for. I think he has probably the highest floor in that range. But you got guys like rookies like Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren who have a wider range of outcomes in that range. Mm-hmm. So would you take Goddard over those guys, or are you still taking the rookie upside there?
Oh, I'm all in on Loveland. Warren, I could see it. That's kind of a camp situation. I think Warren, we do have to respect the talent, but the Colts, it could be ugly. We know this. Anthony Richardson, I mean, even Daniel Jones, not yeah. Great. So, right. But yeah, I think I probably lean Warren as of now, just because the unknown and the upside, like you said. But season long, I do think Goddard could be a more consistent guy than we think, like 4 catches, 50 yards. And like you said, if Saquon's not getting those long tutties, you could see some more. I just think Jalen Hurts Eagles passing regression toward the mean, no matter how you slice it with the way they, with the numbers from last year. So, and it's not, and the coordinator's not there. So what's your question for Philly here?
Yeah, well, it's not that interesting because this offense is so top heavy. But, if Kenneth Gainwell gone, we got Will Shipley and A.J. Dillon now backing up Saquon Barkley. Which of those two do you think will be the handcuff for Saquon Barkley?
Got to be Shipley. They drafted they spend it was a 4th or 5th rounder on him last season, and then they let Gainwell go. Dillon hasn't really been a factor in a while, so I think Shipley's going to be next up here. What about you?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think Shipley's the handcuff. A.J. Dillon he missed the entire season with that neck injury, so we don't know what he looks like. We don't kind of form he's going to return to. I think that if the only time you're ever going to play these guys is if Saquon's out, and I think in that situation, Shipley would handle most of the work, but I think A.J. Dillon would mix in a lot more on early downs, potentially goal line situations. But I think Shipley would be the guy. It'd be definitely much more of a committee than if Saquon were healthy. But I think Shipley's the clear handcuff here. But one of those things just kind of monitor during training camp.
Oh yeah, Shipley's one of my favorite best ball picks. I think he is kind of one of those anti-fragile picks in the sense that like zero RB is not really anti-fragile anymore because everyone kind of waits. Like there's like this big gap. Like the frozen pond tier is just there's no pond anymore. Like it's just everyone's just like picking wide receivers for like those middle rounds, and then there's this glut of running backs and quarterbacks and tight ends. But Shipley is just like, even projecting him as the backup, running backs tend to miss 2 to 3 games. He's still just draftable in at least in best ball as like the last running back on your bench. So, but if anything happens with Saquon or, just, in general with those early round guys, he's one of those guys that's going to benefit because he goes so late. Like a lot of times I get him with my last pick in best ball. So he has been, I love him in best ball. And I think A.J. Dillon, I mean, I don't know if A.J. Dillon would even be the number 2. They're starting to sign a lot of these satellite guys like Keelan Robinson. They got Avery Williams, though he might be convert to wide receiver. But Dillon, I mean, he couldn't beat out Emmanuel Wilson a couple years ago in the postseason. Like he was losing snaps. So doesn't bode well. And he doesn't run big. So early down, I think he plays best on pass downs, but just watching him. So I'm not high on Dillon at all.
To your point on my overall question is kind of rhetorical. It's obviously Will Shipley here, But I like your best ball approach on him. One other thing that I think is sneaky with Shipley and best ball and not having to pick which games you play him is if the Eagles are up a ton and they play the second unit, usually in those situations they're running the ball a shit ton. That would be Shipley. So he gets some cheap touchdowns late in the game, even in weeks where Saquon Barkley's healthy and takes all the work when the game's competitive. But Shipley can get some garbage time points. So he has some sneaky upside even when Barkley's healthy. So I agree that the upside's there, and where he's drafted, that's an excellent range to take a guy that has injury upside like that. So I agree. I think it's clearly Shipley as Saquon's handcuff.
Saquon Barkley's on the other side of peak running back age, and he had regular season and playoffs combined 482 touches.
Unreal.
Like, the injuries coming, and no one ever wins the NFC East 2 years in a row. So it's just not going to be a smooth sailing for the Eagles this year. But if it is, Shipley may be a beast in the fantasy playoffs because that's around the time when the Eagles, they could start playing more of their backups, and Hurts tends to miss time around that every year, it seems like. So yeah, love Will Shipley. Fantasy Flex listeners, we've got some very exciting news this year. We're going to do a live Fantasy Flex event on August 23rd in the Chi at Joe's on Weed Street. Mark your calendars now. Save the date. That's Saturday, August 23rd. Joe's on Weed Street in Chicago. And I'm going to be there. Sean's going to be there. It's going to be a really dope atmosphere. So hoping to meet as many of you guys as we can come through. And you're going to need to RSVP though. And we'll have information about exactly how you can do that right here on the Fantasy Flex podcast in the coming weeks. So be sure to keep it locked. Again, that's Saturday, August 23rd, Joe's on Weed Street in the Chi for the Fantasy Flex live event of 2025. Sean, sounds like it's going to be real lit, man.
Yeah, I'm pumped for this. These live events are always a blast. It's always fun getting to connect with everyone in person. And we're going to have a full slate of preseason games that day. So it's my favorite time of year as well. But yeah, we should be able to watch some of those games together. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, man. I'm always impressed by the complexity of the questions that people can ask while, getting a little litty. But excited to meet you guys again. That is Saturday, August 23rd. Make sure you save the date if you're going to be in the Chicago area. Washington, best value in the backfield. Brian Robinson Jr. Goes around running back 28-ish, or Austin Eckler in the 40s.
Can I go with neither? I'm going to go with Brian Robinson here. It's too expensive. I don't necessarily want him there. Just I think Eckler could be past his time. I thought he was going to retire after last year, and Deebo Samuel I think will eat into Eckler's role. So I'm going to go with Chris Rodriguez. I'll go Brian.
None of the above. It's the other guy. Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. That's the guy. That's the guy we want.
I don't know if we want him either.
Jeremy McNichols.
Now we're talking.
Colson Yanko.
No, I'm still a Chris Rodriguez stan. But yeah, I think out of the two though, I would go Brian Robinson. Just think the floor ceiling combo there for him is better. I just think there's a little too much uncertainty with Eckler, in my opinion.
Yeah, Eckler is on the way down, in my opinion. I think his best role is probably more of what the Jeremy McNichols role was last year. Just he can be good in spurts, but he's not at the stage where you really want to give him. I think close to half the snaps. And I thought Robinson, and I've never been a big Robinson guy, but I thought he looked pretty good. It was just he just got himself banged up a little too frequently last year. But I thought when he was in there running the football, he looked damn good. And remember, you got Tunsil. The line could be better. And you got the threat of Jaden Daniels. And you tend to stay on schedule as an offense because Daniels, they always go for it on fourth down. And Daniels is just not putting them in behind the chains very often. So I think and he's going to be motivated contract year. So, I'm definitely hard skewed toward Robinson. And I'm hearing Krosky Merritt, the rookie, actually is going to factor into their plans. And, Debo, just kind of getting guys like that. I agree with you. I think it's more of an indictment on Eckler, and they're trying to get more kind of guys like that, those chess pieces. So Robinson will still be there to run it inside the tackles and get his touchdowns or whatnot. What you got for me with the Commanders?
Yeah, so just how is Debo? Again. Oh yeah, well it might be, right?
According to Mr. Trump, he said he's going to try to get that changed.
Colors and uniforms, it looks like, to be identical. But the Commanders, how will Debo Samuel fit into this Commanders offense? He's been kind of dropping off a bit the past couple of years. Do you think he picks it back up in this offense? Do you think it's a good fit? And are you projecting him like for a couple of rush attempts a game like San Francisco did the past few seasons? Like, what's your outlook on Debo and how he fits into this offense?
Yeah, definitely projecting him for a couple of rush attempts. We know Washington spreads it around on the ground. I mean, again, McNichols, Rodriguez, to your point, all factored in last year. So I'm projecting him somewhere between 2 and 2.5. Round 2, I think, is a solid median projection. And then if we hear in camp that he's going to be used just like San Francisco, I might increase it to his normal 2.5, 3. But I think he fits decently. I don't think you really have to pay attention in camp with him truly, because it comes down to his physical fitness. Like we're hearing that he's like fat, but then we're hearing he's actually just Debo'd out again. And he tends to go through these peaks and valleys where sometimes he shows up a little too big. And like last year, it seemed like he was missing a gear. And but every other year, it seems like he's just unstoppable. So we just have to check back mid to late August and see what those training camp photos looking like. And that's how we'll know. But what are you doing with Debo? Have you been drafting him at like low, high end wide receiver 4 or going elsewhere?
I have some Debo. I remember seeing those practice videos where he looked a little out of shape, but like he's a stocky guy. He's jacked. So it's like he still had a couple months to get into game shape. People got to remember he's a world-class athlete. It doesn't take him long to get back into shape. So I'm not looking too much into that. I think he's a great fit for this offense. They love to throw underneath, get the ball in playmakers' hands, and do work after the catch. That sets up perfectly with him. But we have seen a bit of a drop-off the past couple seasons, so I am slightly concerned. I just think this is just great news for Jaden Daniels to be even better this year, to have a weapon like Debo behind Terry McLaurin. So if anything, this makes me more bullish on Jaden Daniels in year 2. But yeah, I think I have Debo as like a low end wide receiver 3, right on that cusp of wide receiver 3 flex range. So yeah, I've been getting just a normal amount of Debo so far.
Yeah, there's a wide range of outcomes, but normally I am of the opinion that it's all puff pieces and all those, photos of guys, with their shirts off. It's it's not going to tell you anything. But with Debo, I think he's the exception. It actually, the way his fitness unfolds in camp really tends to dictate his effectiveness, because he's such a unique athlete, and he is not a wide receiver in the traditional sense, as if he's going to beat coverage with technical skills, right? Like he's going to need to get schemed the ball and use his athleticism and tackle breaking ability to create yardage. And when he's in shape, he can do that with the best in the league. But when he's not, you see situations like last year where he's never open, and every time he has the ball in his hand, he's a step slower than the defense. So I will be I will be checking those Debo flicks as we go through the
Yep.
offseason, because that's pretty much what it is with him. NFC North. Everyone wants to talk about the Chicago Bears. Sean, a guy I feel like that's got lost in the shuffle. DeAndre Swift. What do you think his outlook is with no backs yet signed in free agency and an all new interior offensive line, along with, of course, Ben Johnson, former coach Ben Johnson.
Yeah, exactly. I'm high on him because they really haven't made any splash moves to get me off of Swift to be, the week 1 starter at least. So this is an offense that's gonna probably do a 180 this season, be much more effective running the ball. Like you said, they made a ton of upgrades on the offensive line. That's going to be huge here. So Swift has a legit shot to be like a solid RB2. So I do like him, but it is a situation where there's still, a wide range of outcomes where, he's not a lock. So, Roschon Johnson, he's been kind of shaky early in his career. He could still, make some noise. I actually like the 7th round pick, Kyle Monogany. He's been, flashing a little bit, but like, it's one of those things where DeAndre Swift is not a lock to be the RB1, but he's certainly the clear favorite. So if you believe in this offense, you believe in Ben Johnson, I think he's being overlooked. So to answer your question, yes, I am higher than the consensus when it comes to DeAndre Swift. I think he has legit RB2 upside this year.
Yeah, same. I do think it's a wider range of outcomes than you like, but if we love the Bears offense, and specifically that interior line remake, you got Joe Thuney from KC. He ranked top 7 at PFF. Drew Dalman at center from Atlanta. He ranked top 5 among centers. And then Jonah Jackson, a very good right guard, is coming over from the Rams. And you still have the tackles. You added some depth as well. So that line could be top 5, kind of similar to what Detroit's was. I think maybe you get more of that like Gibbs Montgomery committee with either Roschon is the bigger early down guy or Monogany. So that is something to watch out for with Swift taking on more of a pass game role. But at this point, I mean, there's question marks about all these running backs and there's a wide range of outcomes. So I'll take the guy with that could be on one of the best offenses with one of the best offensive lines. So yeah, I'm optimistic about him. But what you got for me with the Bears? Because this is the team everyone I feel like is talking about.
Yeah, let's talk about the tight end situation. What sort of role do you see Colston Loveland having, let's say early on in the season, with Cole Kmet there obviously, but they spent a top 10 pick on Loveland. He's got that Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta type of upside. So how do you see them kind of divvying out their snaps and like usage early in the season?
New regime change, and they took a more complete tight end. So that tells me they're going to play him every snap. I think I already heard Ben Johnson say as much. So yeah, I think Cole Kmet is Brock Wright. Cole Kmet was invisible last year. I don't know what him and Caleb have going on, but like people talked about the Odunze misses and the Keenan Allen overthrows and down the field, but Cole Kmet was literally invisible to Caleb Williams for game on game, it seemed like. So the fact that they go out and draft Colston Loveland early in the first round tells me that they're going to use him like Sam Laporta, and Cole Kmet will probably be able to take on more of those inline duties. So that just frees Loveland up to be a receiver as much as possible. And they are going to play some 1-2 personnel, and they do have a rookie slot receiver in Luther Burden as well, who people are excited about. But I think just judging by the draft capital, judging by the track record for Ben Johnson, I think Colston Loveland, top 10 tight end right off the bat with top 3 upside in year 1.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, they didn't draft him inside the top 10 to ease him in. I think this is a situation where similar like Brock Bowers, one of the hangups from people drafting him last year was they had Michael Mayer. Um, and
Yep,
yeah,
made that mistake.
Michael Mayer did miss time, so that helped accelerate it. But when you have a legit, prospect like Colson Loveland, they tend to play way more early on. So yeah, I agree. I think Loveland will be a lead tight end from the get go, and offer top 10 upside. I think the market is a lot sharper on him this year, factoring that in. But yeah, I'm very high on Loveland, and definitely think you should take him around the tight end 9, tight end 10 range.
Yeah, I mean Cole Kmet with that. What are we calling it now? The Golden Otten
The
or whatever it is.
Well,
Like the
yeah, we need well, it was like the wind sprint award, but I thought it was we called it the Demarcus Robinson, but he's been better the past couple seasons. But
we need a tight end one now for Cole Kmet. And I think it was Kate Otten was the most recent guy until the breakout. But I'm looking at him right now. So from week 13 to week 18, which are the most recent 6 games of Caleb Williams' young career, Cole Kmet ran 195 routes and was targeted 8 times.
Yeah, I remember that time that I finally took the under on his receptions prop, and it's scary, man, because he's out there running a route every drop back, so you could potentially get a target, but he just never did. But yeah, we got to just name it the Cole Kmet Award.
Yeah, Cole Kmet essentially was Gerald Everett last year. Like Cole Kmet was just as unproductive for pretty much that stretch run as Gerald Everett, who, remember, he was supposed to factor in like, oh man, we're worried about Kmet because Gerald Everett is there. I mean, I guess that's the biggest knock on. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, malpractice. But I do think having Cole Kmet is like your supercharged version of Brock Wright is a nice, like, every offensive guru has a tight end they just can't quit. Like with a O'Connell, it's like Johnny Munt. You know what I mean? Like Cole Kmet's just gonna settle in as that guy for Ben Johnson. He doesn't have to be this. I mean, he was just moonlighting as like a top option because it was Justin Fields and no one else for a lot of that time. So yeah, really high on Loveland. But so another question about the Bears. I know we had 2 here, but who do you think is the most likely guy to bust? Because like I feel like they can't all hit, right? Like yeah. Burden Swift, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, Colston Loveland. Yeah, those out of those guys.
I mean, it's a mixed bag. I would say it's either Odunze or Burden. I do think Odunze will be on the field most of the snaps, so that would just have to be performance again. I think he's going to bounce back this year. He saw a lot of deep balls and low catch rate. Like, I think he's going to bounce back this year. Burden might not get as much playing time as people think because they might run a lot of 2 tight end sets, so it's going to be hard for Burden to get on the field. So I think Burden has the widest range of outcomes where if DJ Moore gets hurt, Burden could be, wide receiver 2. So I want to be cautious when I say this, but if everyone stays healthy, I think Burden's going to be the odd man out. He's going to make a splash play or 2, but I think he's the kind of guy that needs volume. So if he's not getting the playing time to kind of get that, I think he'd be the odd man out. But it's hard. I love every one of these pieces in this offense, especially if Ben Johnson does maximize it. But out of all the guys, I'd say Burden has the highest chance of being the odd man out, just in terms of playing time.
Yeah, Burden and then considering ADP, I think probably DJ Moore is a close second, because it could be one of those offenses where everything's just kind of spread around. Odunze breaks out, Loveland breaks out, Burden gets a bunch of or a couple of long touchdowns, and DJ Moore, he's not the greatest at doing some of the littler things. He's very explosive, and you can scheme him a ton of looks, but they gotta really scheme him the ball last year, and now you've just added so many other weapons that I could actually see more being more of a wide receiver 3, and just one of many pieces, kind of like the Bills do it, where they spread it around. But Burden is a little bit concerning, because they also got a very solid veteran in Olamide Zaccheaus there as well, and he always tends to stick around and play starter snaps wherever he goes, whether it was Philly or Washington. Yeah. So
he's the new Zach Pascal.
So don't count him out.
He's the latest Zach Pascal.
Yeah, not the same kind of player, but yes. Yeah, he's just always sticking a little Jordan Humphrey, always sticking around, man. So yeah, I peeped that. And then they also got Duvernay's probably going to be active every week, because he's going to be their return man. And so yeah, I could definitely see Burden getting a little lost in the shuffle, but I do wonder if maybe they don't have that high-end wide receiver, or high-end wide receiver with all these kind of pieces. Maybe it just all evens out. And so I'm starting to get I'm fading more a little bit as well, even though I guess he also has massive upside because it's Ben Johnson. But there is some downside.
Could be the Amon-Ra in this offense, where he just sees a shit
ton of
target. So I get your point.
Not nearly as good of a route runner.
Yeah,
not nearly as good of a route runner.
But I take your point where if they're spreading the ball around all these guys, the guy the highest ADP, or the guy that goes earlier in drafts, would be the one that would be the bust. So I take your point there.
Draft Caleb. That's who we want.
Mm-hmm.
Green Bay. Oh man, Sean. Oh wait. Who is it? What?
Lions.
Who you say? Oh yeah, where are the Lions? Are they not in our doc? I don't see them. Oh, whoops! I almost. Oh man, I don't know how I skipped over that. I guess I was excited to get to Green Bay. But talk to me about David Montgomery, because you made the positive case for him. I'm kind of on the negative side. So what's your outlook for him? Do you think he continues to maintain RB2 status with kind of a little bit of a change going on in this Detroit offense?
Yeah, so I kind of know where you're going with this, and I agree with you. I'll let you talk about it in depth. But when it comes to Montgomery, the thing that I still like about Montgomery is he can provide RB2 value even when Jahmyr Gibbs is healthy. But if Gibbs were to miss time, I still think Montgomery would offer top 5 value. So that's my case for Montgomery, is just his projection profile. But I think you're going to make some excellent points where I'll add on to as well. But this year could be different. This is an offense that I think is due for regression, but I think they have some things that will help fuel that. So are you lower on Montgomery this year than you have been the past couple seasons?
Yeah, usually I'm right there with you. I love kind of the ceiling floor combination, but there's always a point where I think you got to be forward looking and not back looking. And there's always going to be these kind of surprise veterans that they seem so consistent, and it's just everything kind of changes. And I think there's definitely some warning signs. I'll put it that way. Number one, Jahmyr Gibbs is just so damn good that he might just demand more snaps even when they're healthy. So the split goes more. New coaching regime, Engstrand's gone, Ben Johnson's gone. He only had 1.1 yards before contact per attempt, according to PFF last year. And that was with a pretty decent Lions offensive line. And now it's getting worse, especially on the interior, which is where Montgomery makes his money. On 192 carries in the regular season last year, he had a long gain of only 21 yards. He's on the other side of peak age at age 28. You're likely going to see more negative game scripts for the Lions. This whole division is going to be competitive. I think I actually placed a long shot bet in the app for the Lions to miss the playoffs. Like, that's how tight it's going to be this year, I think. And last year he had not quite the greatest season. He had an injury at times, but he did make up for a lot of the what otherwise could have kind of hampered him with some decent receiving games. He had 2.2 yards per route run, but I think that's very likely to regress because his career yards per route run is half of that at 1.1. So he could be in for some major regression, early down grinder, getting old, relies on touchdowns on a team that's going to see less positive game scripts with a new coaching staff and a very talented guy ahead of him. The writing's on the wall. I think I want to get off the Montgomery train a year early than a year late because I can get I'd rather just get like a bona fide RB1 early and then get like a free guy that could like a Tyler Algier or like a Ray Davis or a Shipley or somebody like that who, who could become an RB1 if a guy goes down, then kind of this middle purgatory ground with Montgomery. So that's where I'm at with him. I'm pretty low on him.
Yeah, I'd say that's fair. I think his floor this year is definitely lower, so we have to factor that in. But I still think that, if Gibbs were to miss time, he'd be a top 5 back. And in that range, just based on my running back upside chart, he's still, a decent flyer in that range. But yeah, I agree with everything you said and kind of takes me to my question. We could just piggyback that here. But how do you think this offense looks without Ben Johnson calling plays this year? They brought in John Morton over from Denver, so he worked under Sean Payton the past couple seasons, but he was an assistant for Detroit back in 2022. I know they kind of want to keep this pretty seamless, but do you think they're going to have any drop off now with the new player caller, or how do you see this shaking out?
I do think there will be drop off, partly due to the new play callers, but more so that this is now the second year in a row. This team's gonna have a tougher schedule. Last year we were kind of looking at up and down the schedule, like, oh man, this sets up well for Jared Goff. Not quite as well this year. I'm a little worried that he's not going to have a lot of the guys he's been working with holding his hand. Still a lot of respect for Campbell, but ultimately, yeah, I do expect the Lions offense to take a step back. I'm hearing, Amon-Ra might be having some injury issues. I do think J-Mo will get featured though. I'm high on him. I think, more passing benefits him. I think Laporta can bounce back as well, but it was interesting that they took the rookie to Slay. Him and Tim Patrick, I guess, will be playing that run blocking role. But overall, I'm expecting a step back for Goff, step back for Montgomery, and the offense in general. I just don't think they score quite as many points. I don't think there is in as many positive game scripts. And so I think like the early down back and the quarterback are the two guys that probably get hit the most. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be tough to not see any regression. They've been so good the past 2-3 seasons that, regression's coming, but it might be quicker with a new play caller just because, the timing of the play calls and things like that just might not be as efficient. So there's certainly concern there. The offensive line should still be top 5, but, they lost center Frank Ragnow, retired. Kevin Zeitler is now on the Titans. So they're shuffling the offensive line. They're, they drafted a second-round rookie in Ratledge to start right away. So the offensive line might, not be as good. And again, to take your point when it comes to Montgomery, this coaching change might result in Jahmyr Gibbs just getting more touches, which probably makes sense. He is, one of the best backs in the league. So the coaching change could actually help Jahmyr Gibbs just feature him more. So that's kind of, I'm taking that in consideration when it comes to my Montgomery projection, where he just might not see as many carries when Gibbs is healthy. So there's a lot that can change, but it's just going to be hard for them to maintain the efficiency we saw the past couple seasons. So regression is inevitable. Just how much, I guess, remains to be seen. But they definitely want Morton to kind of try to run the same exact offense. It just might be tougher than people think.
Yeah, I think there's, I think it's going to be more than Tampa Bay's regression. Like I think Tampa Bay would take a little bit of a step back, but I think Detroit's could be a little more harsh, I guess is the way I'd put it. You got outdoor games at Washington, at Philly in the second half of the year. at Chicago to end the season. You go to KC, you go to Cincy, you go to Baltimore earlier in the year. And there's not many. They play Cleveland, but there's not many outs this year. It's going to be a tough Cleveland and the Giants. It's going to be a tough year, I think, for Detroit. They're going to have to claw for every win. I could see them ending with a losing record. I could see them going like 8-9, and J-Mo goes off. Amon-Ra does his thing, and the passing game kills. But yeah, I'm a little worried about Goff after that disastrous playoff game, and now he's losing his hand holders, so not ideal. Now we go to Green Bay, and I think maybe Green Bay is what we've kind of been looking for out of Detroit, just high efficiency. I think Green Bay could potentially be that this year. What do you think about Green Bay's passing game? Jordan Love goes as a mid-range to low-end QB2. Matthew Golden and Jaden Reed tend to go around wide receiver 40-ish, and Tucker Kraft goes outside the TE1 ranks. Now, most of this is generally predicated on the fact that Green Bay went just super, super run heavy last year. So, what's your outlook for this passing game? Because, it's not quite a Philly situation, but I think there's going to be just some natural volume regression upward for the passing game, no?
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And, last year, Jordan Love, he got hurt in week 1, right? Yeah, he had that injury where he was supposed to be out like 4 to 6 weeks, and he came back just after a couple games. And obviously they went extreme run heavy with Malik Willis, so we have to factor that when we're looking at Green Bay's rushing stats last year. But I think they were just being a little bit more run heavy to just be cautious with Jordan Love, and it was working. But this year, Matthew Golden, I know you like him. Just drafting him and adding him to the mix, I think will allow them to be more pass heavy. So yeah, I think they're still going to be a run heavy team, but similar to what you're saying with the Eagles, it's like they can't get any more run heavy than they did last year. So there's going to be some natural positive regression for the passing game. We're going to see more volume. So yeah, I'm a little bit more bullish on the wide receivers this year. And initially when they drafted Golden, I didn't like the landing spot because it's so crowded, but it's crowded because, no one's really able to step up to be the guy. So the more I've looked into it, the more I love Golden, the more I think he could be, the number one target in year 1. So I actually love this landing spot, especially with Jordan Love, and a lot more optimistic on the passing game in general this year as well.
Yeah, I might be strong and wrong on this, but I'm buying the Green Bay passing game this year. I think they just, not only was Love hurt, but I don't think they were very happy with their wide receiver room last year. You had Dobbs and Wicks making noise at different times, in terms of negative noise. I mean, locker room distractions. Then you had, Jaden Reed. They just don't like to play him in too wide personnel. They always kind of capped his snaps. And then his agent had to kind of do his bidding in the offseason and reaffirm his wide receiver 1 status. And Romeo Dobbs he tends to be their leader in routes run, but he's probably one of the worst guys to get that many routes in the league. I know we liked him as a breakout a couple of years ago, but this is a guy who's never had a 100-yard game in the regular season, never caught a 40-yard pass in the regular season. So I think Golden will allow them to pass more. Savion Williams will be a bigger Jordan Reed, and they'll scheme him some plays in space and easy completions for Love there. Tucker Kraft is a very good tight end. You still got Musgrave, and LaFleur is one of the better schemers and play callers too. So I think the Packers passing game is way undervalued. If you look at Jordan Love, even with the injuries, top 5 in yards per attempt at 8.0, top 5 in QBR, barely ever got sacked, even though he was gimpy. I mean, yeah, he had a string of interceptions. But what do we know about interceptions? They're one of the most random stats year to year. And almost no one throws more. The leader had one a game, 16 interceptions. It's not you could throw an interception every game and it's not really going to be that big of a deal. So I'm buying Jordan Love. I'm buying Reed. I'm buying Golden. I'm buying Kraft I think all those guys are undervalued because Love is maintained efficiency, and he might not be done breaking out. By the way, he might be what we wanted Stroud to be last year. Stroud could be undervalued too. We'll talk about him in our AFC pod, but buying all those guys. But I know you have a back. You're looking at the backfield, right?
Yeah. So obviously, Jacobs will be the lead back again this year. It's gonna be hard for another running back to offer any value as long as he's healthy. And Jacobs was healthy all 17 games last year, so nobody got a spot start. But if Jacobs were to miss time, who's the handcuff? Like, who's going to be the number 2 back? Because we have Marshawn Lloyd, who was a 3rd-round pick last year, barely played. I think he only had 6 touches last year. And then you have Emmanuel Wilson, maybe Chris Brooks. But who is the guy to be Josh Jacobs' handcuff this year?
I think it would be more of a committee if that indeed were to happen. Now, I don't know if all 4 of them make the team. Brooks, he's really good on pass downs and special teams, so he could just make it as the RB4 again, even if Lloyd is healthy. And then I think Wilson is more like a direct backup for Josh Jacobs. And then I think you're going to also have a lot of plays with Williams in the backfield and Jaden Reed in the backfield. So it's going to be, I think it would be a committee approach, but I would lean toward Lloyd being the most valuable just because I think they're going to want to scheme him up, high value touches and explosive plays. But I wouldn't be surprised if Manny Wilson would end up leading them in carries, and then Brooks would play 3rd downs and pass block a ton and things like that. And if he's on the practice squad, he would get called up and do that stuff. So yeah, I don't think it would be like anyone's a smash, but yeah, I was all the way out on Lloyd last year. This year, I think he's fine, but I don't think he's like a true handcuff. I think he's just one of many of these chess pieces that Green Bay's trying to assemble this year. And the Williams draft pick really kind of throws a wrench into some of that backfield too.
Yeah, that's true. And I feel similar. And that's my point is, like, if really one of these, it's always a problem when you have a handful of guys that could be the handcuff, already a situation I want to avoid. So in this situation, it's like, what's the highest upside we have here? Like an RB3 flex. If Josh Jacobs were to miss time, usually I'm just going to pivot and target another backup in another backfield. So this competition to see who the backup is something I'll be monitoring, but not necessarily a situation I'm drafting right now because it is too murky. And like you said, it probably will be more of a committee if Jacobs misses time. So I just don't think there's enough upside here to target anyone specifically for now.
Yeah, the Green Bay backfield is kind of one that it's not really fitting into my draft plan right now because if Josh Jacobs gets hurt, I mean, they retooled that passing attack. I think they would be fine going pass heavy. You know what I mean? So in Jacobs, he's another guy. Now he's hitting peak age at 27. He's coming off a massive monster touch year, 2 or 3 in a row, really, where he's had, pretty much 300 close to it 2 of the last 3 years. So yeah, I think Jacobs probably a higher injury risk. He's probably not going to see as many receptions as he has at times with all the other weapons they have and gadget guys they have. I mean, they converted our guy Bo Melton to cornerback. That's how the competition's tight this year. So I think Jacobs probably pass blocks and either they'll get Lloyd more involved. But yeah, I don't see any guy running away with it. I think the biggest way to exploit Green Bay is take advantage of that downtick in pass volume last year and just take all the cheap passing. I mean, for a guy as efficient as Jordan Love, the fact that you can get his top 2 receivers, all of his receivers, outside the top 40, you could get his tight end outside the top 12. That's pretty. And then you could get Jordan Love way down there too at quarterback. That's what I'm gonna load up on, at least unless something changes and the ADP shifts. All right, let's close it out with the Minnesota Vikings. Sean, you've been the Vikings QB whisperer with Sam Darnold last year, and I've heard you shout out J.J. McCarthy a ton. So talk to him. What's the outlook for him? Where does he fit on a scale of Cousins to Darnold, or even Mullins to Darnold if we have to go lower. Or
yeah,
Mullins to Cousins, I should say. Mullins to
Cousins. Lot of options. I would say probably like Sam Darnold, if I'm being honest with myself, which is still very good, like last year's Sam Darnold. But I think the point is this Kevin O'Connell scheme is very quarterback friendly because Nick Mullins looked great in it. Josh Dobbs looked good when he was in it. So I think when you're plugging JJ McCarthy in this, it's going to make it very easy for him to adjust to the NFL. It's very unfortunate that he missed his rookie season, but from what we saw in like the brief playing time he had in preseason, he looked better than I thought. So I'm very high on him. He missed the entire season with his meniscus tear, but he was able to be in the film room, be at practice. So he's been around the organization. So I think he's going to be pretty mature for a player that hasn't started a game yet. So I'm very high on JJ McCarthy. He does have a wide range of outcomes. He's not going to be a lock, but I think he's in the right scheme. He has good rushing upside. So I wouldn't be shocked if at times this year he pushes, QB1 value based on, the matchup that week.
Where are you at for his passing yards per game or his attempt volume? Because I noticed for Minnesota last year with Darnold, it averaged about 32 and a half attempts per game overall in the season, but it was pretty much a split between pre and post Hawkinson. Like before Hawkinson came back, they were real low. And then after, they were up near around 30, almost 36 per game over those last 10, 11 games. So curious is where do you have his passing yards or passing attempts?
About 235 yards a game. And that's an interesting point with Hawkinson. There was actually a stretch before Hawkinson came back where like every game they would get up to a huge lead. They got up early. I think against the Packers, they were up 21-0 in like the first
Giants.
quarter. So they just got in these game scripts where they just didn't have to throw the ball anymore. So that I think that was part of it. But I think their pass rate was high. Like if you look at like their pass rate over expected, so I expected them to be throwing more. And then obviously Hawkinson came and they want to throw more in those situations. So I think I have McCarthy around 235 passing yards a game. But I have his rushing production being around 16. He could be a 20 plus rushing yards a game kind of QB as well, depending on how his meniscus recovery goes. But I think he has some sneaky rushing upside, even more so than Darnold, obviously.
Yeah, and I mean 235 would be low for a Kevin O'Connell offense with like a healthy Jefferson and Hawkinson. I believe Darnold, last year was at 254. Yeah, they were about 257 as a team last year. And then the year before that, they were even higher. The 2 years before that with Cousins and that whole crew. So I mean, the receiving core is talented enough that I think he does have upside to be like in among the leaders. Like I won't say he'll lead the league or anything, but it's it doesn't take much to get up into that. You get up into that like 260 plus range, and you're probably in the top 8 or so. So with the receivers he has, I think definitely possible, but maybe they end up running it more. I think that's kind of what you're looking at in terms of
yeah. So they brought in Jordan Mason. Basically, just how do you envision the workload split between Aaron Jones, who is going to be on the wrong side of 30 this year, and Jordan Mason, who was a surprise last year, filled in nicely for Christian McCaffrey. But how do you see this backfield shaping up when both running backs are healthy?
C.J. Anderson, Todd Gurley, Super Bowl run. That kind of split where Mason ends up actually being the better back. I thought he looked like the better back last year. I thought Aaron Jones did not look nearly as good as he looked in that playoff run for Green Bay the year before when he was getting force fed down the stretch. So I do think he took a step back. And O'Connell has mentioned that they brought Mason in for that exact reason. They want to keep Jones healthy. I think they want to play Jones more on passing downs and kind of free him up to run more routes with they got Oliver. They re-signed Oliver to a big deal, so he'll handle a lot of the pass pro if they need that, and you can let Hawkinson do his thing in the slot. So yeah, I think Jones could kind of get iced out of some of the higher value like goal line looks at times. I mean, I think Mason's just a better runner between the tackles at this point in their careers, and Jones is probably best used on the perimeter, on the edge, and in space, and with in the pass game. So I've been taking a lot more Mason than Jones, and his ADP's been climbing. So now I'm probably going to stop. But what about you?
I'm not going to stop. Let it keep climbing.
It's like NVIDIA. You just keep buying.
Yeah. They've been saying that Mason could be the goal line back. I think a lot of the issues with Aaron Jones last year were fumbling issues, and he got benched at least one time, maybe a couple times. But I think they really wanted to bring in some competition. And you're right; it wouldn't shock me if Mason does become the lead back this year. And sometimes it's not fair to really evaluate running backs in the 49ers scheme because, everybody does good in that scheme. But Kevin O'Connell he's from the Shanahan coaching tree. So it's going to be a similar run scheme. So one of my favorite stats with running backs is the next gen stats rushing yards over expected per attempt that like measures where your offensive line is, where, defenders are. So I think it's a good measure of, efficiency. And, the top three last year were Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley. No surprise there in the top two. And then third was Jordan Mason. Like he was extremely efficient, but he was picking up a lot of yards just based on his own skill set. So he's the type of back where I'm going to have a pretty high yards per carry for him. So I think he could outplay Aaron Jones. So yeah, I'm very high on Jordan Mason. I consider him much more than a handcuff. I think this is like, going to be a true committee to start, but there's upside there for him to be the starting running back, even without Aaron Jones getting hurt. And those are the situations I do like to target. So yeah, I love getting Jordan Mason sort of around that, RB40 range still.
Yeah, Jordan Mason is good Alexander Madison, and Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is good Ty Chandler from 2023.
Ooh,
remember when they kind of split that? Like, that's the kind of split I could see. I think Madison finished with, let's see, I think 180 carries in 16 games, and so that was about 11 carries per game, and then Chandler, I mean, for the year he had 102 carries, but there was a span where he was, getting pretty much 50-50 with Madison. I could see that the kind of split, but the fact that Mason is younger and could get some goal line work. I know it's, we all play in PPR leagues, and that's really Mason's shortcoming. At least it has been. So you got to kind of temper expectations. But I mean, every year you have like a couple of those Gus Edwards types, right? Where it's just somebody's just going to go off without catching too many passes. I think Mason's one of those guys that very possible. All right. That is going to do it for today's episode of the Fantasy Flex, our NFC Training Camp Questions Part 2. Thanks for tuning in. Keep an eye out for our AFC episodes where we'll get into even more training camp questions. We're going deep, as you can tell, on these pods, but it's always a valuable exercise because you got to kind of get ahead of this stuff and start planting flags and being prepared to fade guys or jump on value when it comes. And speaking of value, the all new Fantasy Labs app has dropped. So be sure to check that out. If you download it right now, you can save $20 on all season access. Just download the all new Fantasy Labs app. Sean is on X at @the_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles on the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next time, let's get this money.